Welcome. I'm Terry McGill, and this is Who's Your Neighbor? Now, the interesting thing tonight is I don't know where you are, but I'm in Portland, Oregon. And the reason I have my Hawaii shirt on is because I'm 1,500 miles away from Hawaii. But our two guest energetic healers tonight are both on, I think, Big Island in Hawaii. Now, I don't know that much about the Hawaiian Isles, except Big Island is the biggest, and it has a mountain on it, and they're all surrounded by ocean. So I think both of these ladies are on the same island, and we'll find out more when we bring them on. But I'd like to give you some background about who's your neighbor. COVID changed the world, not just Portland, Oregon, you know that. And I began to read stories on the media about the ones that stuck out in me most were the people who had, boy, it's just like cemented into my awareness. There were two people, and there was many different scenarios, living together. And during the day, if one of them was home, the other one would go off to work. And so they got along reasonably well because they had so much apart time. When they both had to be at home during the day, all day long, the personality issues began to arise. Sometimes there was violence, physical violence, emotional violence. And emotional violence doesn't have to be yelling. It can be silence, going into a room and shutting the door and staying there for 4 hours. So this made me wonder, what is it? The world has changed, but can I make a difference in some way? And someone suggested that I introduce people in the neighborhood, like think of Mr. Rogers, right? Who's your neighbor? Because we don't know our neighbors. I only know one on either side of me. And I used to talk with one across the street, but they're almost always inside or away. So I don't know who the people are, 2 houses away on either side or 2 houses down. Not only that, but we don't know the people who are making big differences in our lives around the town we live in, or the city we live in, or even the state. So we branched out, and I started asking people to be a guest that I've known, 5, 10, 25 years, that are they're doing wonderful things in the community, but you're not going to hear about them like Deepak Chopra or Oprah. So we interviewed them here. And then we started adding to it. There are different healing modalities than the one I grew up with, traditional Western medicine. I was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago. Traditional Western medicine, I didn't like what I'd read and heard. Chemotherapy, radiation, and after a lot of soul searching and my son yelling at me, I won't go into the details on that, but he was very concerned. And so we're now looking at, for example, tonight, these are, make sure I've got the words right, Tao Healing Hands practitioners. This is an alternative or complementary type of healing. It's non-touch. You're going to get a great example today because the person that we had 2 or 3 that were going to be here. And so you could see a live demonstration, well, at least online, but they couldn't make it. So they're going to offer you remote, anonymous, or private. So we won't mention their names. They aren't even here, but we'll talk more about that. Or rather, I will ask both Annika and Dove to come on and share some of their stories. Welcome from Portland, Oregon. Welcome to those of you in Hawaii.
Thank you
Now,
very much.
Annika, you were saying if you turned your camera 180 degrees, what would we see?
You'd see a big stretch of beautiful blue ocean and some
Oh,
coconut
makes me want to go back to
trees
Hawaii.
swaying in the breeze. Yeah.
And Dove, you're muted. There we
And
go.
so here I'm on the Hilo side, and if you were to look outside, you would see very thick rainforest jungle with the beautiful ohia and guava trees with the beautiful birds flying around everywhere. So that's what I have on the outside of my space.
So you're
here.
literally in the jungle.
I am in the rainforest. This is the rainforest of Hawaii on the island of Hawaii. And that's where we are honored to live at this time in our lives.
That's great. I love this. I want to come over and visit. Annika, I've been near your place, I think, back
Yeah.
in 2008 or
We're
2000.
on the hot, dry coastal resort side. And that's when I met you, Terry. We both were in that retreat together to receive our healing hands. Yes.
Well, you did. I had received mine in San Francisco.
Ah.
Yeah, in 2010, I think it was. So, would you share, Annika? Why don't you go first, since you're in the middle and not right next to me? Nothing personal. Would you share a couple of samples or examples of what is, how does this work? How does it happen? What can people expect?
Okay, I'd be happy to. So, you talked about neighbors, and this is an example of a neighbor. I used to work in the school system, and we were in the teacher housing. My neighbor was a teacher, and we would get together and talk about everything, the students that we worked with and our school. And we were pretty good friends. So she mentioned one day she had she was also very spiritual, so we could discuss spiritual things as well. She had really severe lower back pain, like severe. Like she said it was a 7, but she's very stoic. So on a scale of 1 to 10, she said it was way up at about a 7, but it was probably, you could just kind of see her face was drawn and she was suffering from this pain. So I offered her a healing and we talked about it just to allow the divine to come through and for her to open her heart. Because in order to really receive a good healing, you have to have a nice open heart. And since we had been talking and chatting, it was maybe easier for her to go into that open heart condition and just be kind of curious what would happen next. And could she receive a healing and reduce the level of her back pain?
So this is a Tao hands healing?
Yes. At that time, it might have been called a divine healing hands healing. But it's in the same lineage from the same beautiful master teacher, Dr. and Master Zhigang Sha. He's the one that's empowered us to have the ability to connect to divine and ask the divine, the Tao, and the source to send the healings forward to the people. So it's not something that we do, it's something we allow to move through us. Yeah?
So like a conduit.
Yeah. So it was kind of amazing where we set everything up. She was relaxed. She was grounded. She closed her eyes and went inside to really feel and understand what was occurring. And since she's a meditator, it was very natural for her to kind of drop into that meditative state. And I asked the Tao hands to go out and send the blessing. And about 30 seconds later, she just burst out laughing. And I didn't know what was happening, and I was laughing. And then we kind of sent the blessing silently for a while. And then it ended, and we asked, well, okay, what was that?
Yeah, 30
Why did
seconds into it, and you break out laughing.
Yeah, why did you burst out laughing like that? And she shared that her pain level dropped instantly from a 7 to like a 2.
Wow.
And she was so surprised because she wasn't expecting it at all. And so relieved and happy to be eased the burden of this pain that she burst out laughing.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's one story that came to mind today.
So you say that's one story. Do you have another one?
Well, I do. And it's actually about relationships where she had some difficult relationships in her career with her coworkers. And she had angerness, bitterness, resentment had built up over the years with these injustices with her coworkers. So we talked about that, and I explained that Dr. and Master Sha teaches that forgiveness brings inner joy and inner peace. And the best way to heal yourself in relationships, one of the best ways, is to just offer your unconditional forgiveness. And she was a meditator, so she got it. She's like, yeah, okay.
I just have to share, though, that seems really counterintuitive.
Well, it took a little while, but after a few more conversations, she was ready to receive another blessing. And this one involved the quality of forgiveness and really letting go those grudges and resentments and releasing into appreciating whoever that was, and seeing the good in them, So we did a silent blessing regarding that. And she was, at the end, she was like, okay. And then I saw her a few days later, and she said the very next day she went into work, into the school, and that person was in front of her and was like, looked her straight in the eyes and said, hello, how are you doing today? And there was that sense of all that guardedness and defensiveness had just dropped away. And this person was ready to engage with her as a coworker, if not an esteemed or respected coworker.
Wow.
And I have actually heard this story a number of times. I've done this with a number of different people. And I never want to make guarantees, like do this and everything will be fine. But I've seen it work where the other person who's receiving the forgiveness doesn't even know that it's happening, but they suddenly feel a softening in their heart. And then the person who gave the forgiveness also has that softness. And so when the two people see each other, all of a sudden things are much more harmonized.
Reminds me of Ho'oponopono. And I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Yes, we do have that here.
What's Dr. Lou? What's his last name?
Dove. It might be Dr. Lou that brought it forward, but I have to pay respect to the indigenous elders of this land who practiced this through the centuries and refined it to a very deep and strong level. And I believe the simplified version is, hello, I forgive you. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. They just, and I might be a little off there, but that's the essence.
That is the essence. I've studied Ho'oponopono. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the first method. Well, it was the second method of healing I went on to. The first one was where this was like 1976, and we were on this week-long retreat, and the retreat leader said, okay, write out on a small, and they handed out slips of paper and a pen to people who didn't have them, and said, write the name of everybody that you have not forgiven. And so I went through 20 or 30 slips of paper and they said, okay, now, and they lit a fire in this big metal kettle, like half the size of what you would boil people in. It was big. Um, and then we filed up and very respectfully dropped however many people. Some people only had a few pieces of paper. I had two hands full. Uh, and I didn't feel anything. I felt no release from it. Other people did.
Mm.
Later on, many years later, ran across Ho'oponopono and several other styles. But anyway, back to Tao Healing Hands, and let's check with the lady in the forest. Dove.
Hi, aloha, everyone. So thank you, Terry, for having me on the show today. I am here in Mountain View. It's very close to the Volcano National Park. So we have an active volcano on this side of the island. So it's real fiery energy. It's very, a lot of rain happens here as well. So a little story I want to share that popped into my head about Tao Healing Hands. I am an integrated, let me back up a minute. I'm an integrated healing arts practitioner. And so I've studied a little different types of modalities. My most favorite one that I find that works the best is Tao Hands. And so I am a certified Tao Hands practitioner. I've gone through a course with the Tao Academy. I received my transmission in 2013 in the Honolulu Center, Honolulu, Hawaii. So I'm very grateful. I've been using this modality. It's like my first aid kit. I was a nurse before, and so instead of running for not a Band-Aid, but maybe a aspirin or something, I just use the Tao Hands for my own self-healing and transformation. But what I want to share about the most recent healing that happened the other day, because I thought it was very powerful, is the land that I live on, my neighbor, actually, so a neighbor of mine, is my sister-in-law, and she's a vet tech. So she has 20 cats next door,
Wow.
4 dogs, yeah, a lot of cats. And so with me being here, I found that, whatever is in front of me, crying needs help, so I have right now these animals in front of me. But what was pretty amazing is she came in the other day. She came over. It was about a week ago. And we were talking and everything, and a new kitten came out of the bush. So it was a young adult mother cat came out of the bushes. She had her babies. And so I asked her, so how is Lily and her babies? And she's, well, that's why I'm here. So she's like, well, that's why I'm here. I was like, okay, what happened? And she's like, well, she had 3 small babies. But what happened is the day after the birth that the mom just got a huge congestion. So just like all this fluid started coming out of her nasal, her sinuses. She wasn't able to take care of the babies. They actually had to take the babies to another mom to nurse them, to take care of her, because she couldn't take care of herself or her babies. And so she's like, that's why I'm here. And so I thought, this is interesting, because this person who's a vet tech, she wasn't into spirituality at all, came into the house and she's like, I need help. Can you help? And so I got it. I'm on it. We're going to offer Tao Hands. So I went through a little checklist of what the symptoms were, kind of getting a little medical background of the cat, just to be able to be precise on what type of blessing to offer. And so the little kitten, she received what's called the Tao Da'ai Healing Hands blessing. And so I began to, later that evening, went into my condition, offered the blessing. And then about 2 days later, I kind of forgot, because kind of moving on, it was a powerful blessing. I asked her, so how's Lily? How is she? And she's like, oh my gosh, the very next day, everything was cleared up.
Wow.
All the sinus, all the mucus, all her chest congestion, everything was clear. The babies were able to come back to her the very next day, so she continued to nurse them and take care of them and love on them, and it was fine. So I asked, well, how are the kittens? And because that's a traumatic experience for newborn little babies to be
Right.
not be able to be with their mom and have to go to a new mom. She said one of the kittens also had drainage and everything. So sent a blessing to that kitten, and they're fine. They're terrific, and that's the power of Tao Healing Hands. I found is I've saved that my neighbors quite a bit of money in medical bills, vet bills, that's for sure. Because another incident, I want to say, with their other cat, they had this really small kitten, and she taking him to the vet. She had to have steroids. They didn't think she was going to live past 6 months old, this kitten. And so they were very close to the kitten. I began to give Tao Hands blessings, like once a month, once a week, maybe, or whatever I'm feeling, called to do that. And they went to the vet, all the levels, like I'm going to say 6 weeks later, after I've been working on this one kitten, and all the levels were normal. So all her blood level, like the red blood cells, white blood cells that were at extremely low level, had gone back up to normal. The cat was able to have what's that called? The spay, neuter.
Right.
So she couldn't, because she was so small, she was so sick, they're afraid once she goes into heat, she's going to have babies. There's no chance of her surviving the pregnancy. Right. But the other thing is, there was no chance of her really surviving this spay or neuter either, right? So that was like the big, we're going to send the blessings. And the cat, I see running around everywhere. She's doing wonderful. She's just hanging out and doing really well now. So I'm very grateful to be a neighbor that has Tao Healing Hands for my community here. And I'm available to offer more services, not just to the animals, but also to people. I have a few, if I can share just one more real quick, a person. I was, when I was driving in Kona, I did taxi, and this one lady got in the car, and automatically we were totally connected spiritually, right? So she came in, I could tell she's having some issues, but she was also spiritually connected. So bringing all that. Well, by the time we got to the airport, I said, can I offer you a Tao Hands blessing? And she's like, yes, please, because she was already crying, right? Getting out of the car crying. I couldn't leave her like that. So let me offer a blessing. Not even a minute later, you could just tell the shift and the energy shift of her face. She was lighter. She was just grateful to receive the love. Just really grateful that somebody was caring for her and giving her this special sacred moment in her life and offering her that love and support at the time. And so I was very grateful. I didn't get a follow up with her as she was getting on the plane going to Maui, but, or actually she was on her way to Arizona. So I sent her off to Dr. Deborah Manning's office at the Rejuvenate Center to get more services when she's in Arizona. So it was great. Yeah. So those are a few of my stories I wanted to share about being the success of Tao Hands and having this miraculous ability to be able to transform challenges. It's amazing. So thank you, Terry.
Thank you for sharing. And Annika, I see you're back.
Yes, I got a phone call and it somehow dropped the connection. Yeah.
So for our viewers, what we would like to ask our two healers tonight is to offer remote healing blessings. And incidentally, over in the chat room, both on Facebook Live and also YouTube, it'll be on YouTube, in the chat room, is the contact information for Annika and for Dove. So If there's something that resonates for you, one of them is like, okay, I got this going on, and send them an email or Dove. I think Dove has your phone number there. So reach out, and in the meantime, or right now, what we want to demonstrate tonight is that you don't have to be here live on the show. You don't have to be connected on the telephone. There's two people. One of them is a friend of mine and her husband. She has some significant health challenges. Now, here's the thing to be aware of. The two healers don't know these two people. I do. Well, I know the husband just a little bit. He's a World War Vietnam War veteran. Not well at all. And if you'll notice, both of the healers immediately closed their eyes, and I suspect that they're reaching out, you might say psychically, to connect. So let's just ask. How come you closed your eyes, ladies?
Yes, that's exactly right. It's a soul to soul connection, heart to heart, soul to soul. And so it is possible to do the healings remotely because there is no, in the soul world, there is kind of like in the quantum world, or you might say, there is no limitations of space and time. And so we're just connecting. Dove?
So it's really like how Annika said, it's closing our eyes to connect with our own heart and soul, but also connecting with the heart and soul of those who are receiving this beautiful blessing that we're going to be offering today. And
even
also,
though you don't know who they are or where they are.
No, we connect with heaven and we connect with the Tao and the Tao, because I'm not doing the work. I'm just the channel. So I connect with the Tao and it's like, okay, Tao, this is who we need to offer the blessing to. Let's do it, And so in a more sacred manner, I think, depending on how quick that blessing needs to go out, right?
And Terry, we're also connecting with you because you brought this couple forward and you're holding them in your heart. Yeah. So we connect with your heart, and through that, we can connect with their hearts. Yeah?
That was what I was wondering about. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the wider, the quantum experience of there's no time, like who was it? Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao Te Ching, Dao Ke Dao, Fei Chong Dao. I don't remember the rest in Mandarin, but it's, there's no time, no space, no shape, no form, bigger than biggest, smaller than smallest. And
quantum entanglement, I think, is a good word for it, because as you're entangled with the receivers in your heart, right, and we're entangled with you, so we're able to connect on that quantum entanglement and go, okay, this is who needs to receive this blessing.
Thank you
for that connection through.
Thank you for bringing that word up. And for our viewers, quantum entanglement relates to connection. And so quantum refers to, it's a kind of entanglement or connection that literally they could be on the other side of the universe. And I can hear the doves in Annika's outside of her lanai. I love it.
Yeah.
What is it that you will do now to offer them the blessing?
Well, once again, we'll connect. We'll connect with the treasures given by Dr. and Master Zhidong Shah of the Tao Healing Hands, and ask those treasures to go to them and clear whatever blockages are in the way in their hearts to have a loving relationship. Yes?
So how is it that you can specify what they receive or what they don't?
Well, we can ask. we're not really in control, but we can ask the divine to focus on their relationship, the connection between the two of those. And the divine has its own intelligence, its own awareness, which is much higher than ours. Yeah. So you kind of surrender the job to the divine and see what the divine will do.
And I'm just realizing I didn't share that they both have significant health issues.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's their relationship. We all have different aspects of a relationship, but their major relationship really is with their own staying alive. So,
And are you going to join us today, Terry, in offering the blessing? Would that be appropriate?
yes.
Thank you.
And for the viewer, I'm also a certified Tao Hands practitioner, Tao Healing Hands, the full name of it, practitioner. I received my first one, Divine Healing Hands, in 2010, and different levels and many different going to the different trainings since then, because I just like to be reminded of things or go deeper in awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just to answer my own question a little bit deeper, for the viewer, we always say as appropriate. And that's just because our ego, my ego, would really get in the way the first 6 years or so. It took a while to quit. So anymore, it's just like, I have no idea what's going to happen, and I don't know what's best for either one of them. So all I'm asking is, somebody said, well, you're going to try to save their lives or not? Honestly, I'm not going to try anything except to connect. And then whatever source or divine, whatever terms we have, God, Yahweh, Allah, whatever is best for their soul, their journey, for them, then I've learned to be content with that, really content.
For me, I found that these blessings have and carry a very high level of intelligence. And so when we say as appropriate, or we say what is most best is what I'm going to send, is what's most best for these two beautiful souls. And I'm going to ask the Tao and the transmission to go to where it is most needed for them. Because I don't know, Terry might not know, they might not even know what is most appropriate and what's most needed for them at this time on their journey for healing. But the Tao knows, the consciousness of the Tao, of the quantum field, it knows. And so it will flow energetically into that area for them as most appropriate. And that's why we say that. So I'm very grateful to serve them today. Thank you.
Thank you. So usually the invocation is silent. And what I'd like to suggest is, let's go inside. I'm thinking of the invocation as I'm doing it. So I invite you both to go inside and just do your own invocation. The blessing itself will be silent. I'll make a few comments along the way because, 5 to 7 minutes is a long time to, you wonder if the video is still working for both of you and for me. We'll just allow the Tao to, what I have found is, as my heart opens further, I don't have the same desire to make things happen. These empowerments that we've received, like Dove and Annika, the healing occurs whether or not we see it or the results of it. And just last week, a dear client who's become a friend has had a fatal disease, probably more than 15 years. I don't know how long. I didn't want to ask. Went blind, needed to be in a wheelchair. The last time I was with her, I was realizing she might only weigh about 80 pounds now. And and I when her sister texted me and says, she left us about 6 o'clock last night, I went, because it was 2 in the morning. I went, really? And I just had this sense of incredible peace. And I realized that she had, for 15 or more years, she was a hero. She just wouldn't give up.
Mm.
And so while I've been sharing this, even when either Annika or Dove open their eyes for a moment and close them back again, we don't have to chant a mantra all the time or beat a drum or anything, because we don't do the healing. What we do is hold our attunement. What I'm doing as I'm speaking is I'm not even thinking about the words. My awareness is in the center of my chest, my heart chakra. And I'm just desiring that my heart be open and that Tao, source, creator, whatever the words are that we use me as it has before for whatever's best, whatever's most appropriate. And I'll share that one of the couple was just diagnosed with about 30% heart function. So um, when you have that little heart function, will the person heal? Well, it depends. There's so many different aspects. Some people say, well, how high is their karma? Or in scientific terms, it's called negative information. It's the coding that we have inside of us. It's our beliefs, our mindsets, our attitudes. So I had a friend probably 20 years ago that had a 4-vessel bypass up at the Vets Hospital here in Portland. And he went back to his same old habits: beer sausage, chips. And I was with him on an outing one day, he and his wife, and about 20 of us. And I said, Don, you got to quit that. And his wife pulled me aside and said, Terry, leave him alone. He's not going to change. So she had made peace with, he's going to transition, and he did. So we don't know what people can do or will. Well, we know what they can do. We've seen incredible miracles, and there's so many stories. But what we do is we've made a commitment to be a vehicle, a channel, a conduit, whatever the words are, for this undefinable energy. And I love that the doves are cooing. So we've got about 2 more minutes. And as my heart kept opening further, what does that mean? Well, I just feel like there's more space in the center of my chest. And I notice that my tone of my voice, or the pitch of it, drops. I speak more slowly and have even less interest in what the words are. So for those of you that are watching right now live or at another time, I invite you, because there's no time or space. So you're not in the same space with us, even if you're watching. However, There isn't any space. Everything is everywhere. Quantum level, the physicists, everything is everywhere all the time. And time? Well, there's no time. There is only the present. And yes, it took me about 45 years to get that. So we've got about a half a minute. And the yawning is something that I do. Um, I experience what's going on in people energetically, and sometimes my body will jerk. Sometimes I'll yawn. Sometimes my eyes will tear. Um, okay, Dove and Annika, if you're complete, because I'm feeling that we are, um, but all healers are different. And I had an experience the other night where my Tao hand said, go ahead and go to bed, but I'm going to continue the blessing until 2 a.m. And I didn't hear a voice. It was just a knowing inside of me. So I just say thank you to this miracle of Tao hands. We can't describe what it is. We can tell stories about what's happened. During the Annika and Dove, if you care to share anything you experienced.
I find it's always such and invigorating. Well, it's hard to say how I feel when I come out of a blessing. It's it's like I'm receiving a blessing as I'm giving the blessing, and so I feel very calm. I feel very at peace, and feel very grateful to have served these beloved ones. Now, when we started, Terry, I have a spiritual third eye, and I want to share some images that were shown to me as we began the blessing. And as soon as the blessing started, I could see both of the souls really receiving a lot of golden. So it looks like a golden light ball in their heart center, in the heart. And then 30 seconds later, or however long later, you had mentioned that the one person, the heart function is at 30%. So right there, the Tao, that was just confirmation for me that the Tao intelligence went straight to the heart, because they knew that's what the heart needed, and I was shown that. The blessing I could see really stayed there, so they're receiving a lot of light into that area. And then for the other person, I could tell that the light was really working on their digestive system. So hopefully they can have a lot more clearer, maybe digestive flow happening in their body going forward at this point. But I just want to say that they're very blessed to receive these blessings. They're very blessed to have been in this field that we've created, healing field that we've created here with our Tao hands. And I could just see that they were very grateful on the soul level and very nourished. So I'm very, very grateful to have this opportunity to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Dove. Annika.
Well, thank you, Terry, for guiding us into that blessing. And many times my experience is one of light, actually, where we can visualize the person that is receiving the blessing as receiving that divine light and love, and visualize them already healthy and healed and well. And through that power of creative visualization, can kind of hold a space for them to move into that space of wellness. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So that sounds like a different set of birds now. I'm not hearing
You
it.
might be hearing the coqui frogs over in the.
No, those are
Oh,
your birds. Those are the little puffin birds, I think, over
okay.
there. We have 44 different types of birds on this island. 32 of them are endangered.
Mhm.
And so I learned that on one of my trucks up in the mountain. So we send our love to our birds here that we do have.
Yeah.
So we've gone a little bit longer than we usually do, and I want to honor that we didn't think when I spoke, I didn't think we were going to go this long, and I know that's been all right with you both. I want to thank you both. I know it's about, is it 2 or 3 hours earlier than Portland time where you are?
3.
3 hours.
Yeah.
So it's 8 here, 8:20. It's 5:20 over there in Hawaii. So you've still got a couple of more hours of light then.
We
I
do.
know Annika's sitting out on her.
Yeah, it's coming real strong now.
Yeah.
The light. Yeah.
She
Well,
gets those amazing sunsets where she's at. She's in a very
Mhm.
divine location there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very beautiful. And we invite anyone and everyone to the island of Hawaii. We welcome you with aloha, and to bring your aloha as well to visit us and learn about Hawaii and how to give back to Hawaii as well. And so we want to teach people how to give back to the land, how to give back to nature, how to live sustainably, and to be ecologically Dow, I should say, on the island of Hawaii. So we're very grateful.
wonderful. Well, I want to thank you for the couple that received the blessings, and those that watched tonight. Looks like there's 3 online at this time. But what I know is this is Facebook Live, and people around the world will. I was really surprised. I looked at one of the first shows. This is like number 25. And one of the first ones, by 10 days later, there were 130 views.
Beautiful.
And wow. It's like, that's just really amazing.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
for all the viewers in the future, Dove Johnson and Annika Emily, their contact information is in the chat room. You can find that. And I'll ask our engineer to take them backstage now. Thank you both. We're so grateful. And for all of you that's been with us tonight or in the future, I'm Terry McGill in Portland, Oregon. Wherever you are in the world, this is Who's Your Neighbor. And you may be surprised. We may be hosting one of your local people soon. So thank you very much. And from Who's Your Neighbor and Portland, Oregon, aloha.